fair condition.
All right. Good. I will call this meeting of the Downtown Management Board to order. We do have 5 members, so we do have quorum. So we'll start off with our consent agenda. We'll go with A, B, and C. Anybody have any questions, or I'd happily entertain a motion at this time?
Make a motion.
Thanks, Becky. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Let's see. This one we'll just do roll. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, we're cruising along. Any public comment? I don't see any public online nor behind me, so I think we're moving on to new business, which is letter A, the initial discussion and direction on the 2027 programs and services budget. And I'll ask Downtown Director Tweeten to take us away.
Thank you. I had provided kind of some background information, and we're early yet in even the assessment process. Yeah, sorry. Oh,
I
one more
totally
thing.
forgot. I would like to welcome back Mr. Noah Ratchet. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're glad to have you back on the board. Sorry, I missed that at the start.
All right.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Amy.
Okay, yeah.
Continue.
So we're still early, but because it's a lengthy process, and I'd like to get input earlier on some specific questions that I have. One of those is, as I indicated in the memo, we have the attorney looking at short-term rentals, because our downtown assessment, you can only assess commercial properties, not residential properties. And whether short-term rentals can be considered commercial use, and therefore, if the DMB chose to add them to the assessment, we would add them to the assessment. So we don't have the answer yet, but I wanted to just bring it to the board for discussion. If short-term rentals are, and we don't have a lot of them downtown, we probably have 3 or 4 that get licensed anyway. So if they are considered commercial property, would the board want those added to the assessment roll? And that's on a per square footage basis.
You want to just go around the
Sure.
room, or does anybody have opinions on that?
Yes.
Yes, do it.
In my opinion.
I agree. It's fair, it's a business.
Seems pretty commercial.
It seems commercial.
I mean, if it's an Airbnb, right, Airbnb.
Right.
So I mean.
Or is it apartment?
Short term, like less than 30 days. I think
The reality is they're using
resources.
marketing events
Yeah.
to try to, to promote their whichever businesses, I understand. So, yeah. They,
I just know that there's some that are just like truly residential apartments with leases that are 2-year,
Yeah.
leases.
That's different.
Just defined as 30 days or less.
30 days, right?
They're running that business in in the downtown district. I feel it's fair.
The only downtown hotel does pay an assessment. I'm not gonna get into that debate, but just.
I agree.
No.
And you fund the visitors bureau. With taxes.
Heck,
Yeah.
with a similar assessment, yes, they like to point out it's not a tax. So I'd be remiss, Jim would yell at me, but it is, yes, we do. Yes,
Right, and short-term rentals don't pay
yes,
the convention tax, but
very good point.
again, these would be upper stories, so they would be at the lowest assessment rate, but. So, okay. That was one question, and then we have some recommendations moving forward from the Marketing and Promotions Committee. One is the Sounds of Summer event. This year, we used less of the assessment money, hoping we would get sponsorships to make it a full 5-week event. We didn't end up getting enough sponsorships to do the 5th week, so we are only a 4-week. They feel we should fully fund it with the assessment that it's an important event for downtown and potentially even look at expanding it beyond 5 weeks. So, what that actual cost will be, I don't have it that at this point, but just again, for discussion by the board.
The event, refresh my memory.
Southwest Summer is the event we partner with Bliss Fest on. And so it is runs generally from mid-July into mid-August in Pennsylvania Park
At night.
in the evening, right?
Petoskey Rocks or some
It's,
future iteration.
yeah, it's the new kind of Petoskey Rocks without closing streets.
Yeah, there.
Not concerts in the park, that's during the day.
That's right.
Yeah, this is the evening. Even draw. Last year, we had really excellent attendance. I think a big part of it, it just depends what acts we have, how many people we're drawing, but we rely on experts for that. So
So this year, for Sounds of Summer, our estimated total payments is 9,500.
Yeah.
And we have 2,000 revenue sponsorship.
what's the DMB put in 7,500
Yeah,
and 9,500 isn't enough for that to have that 5th week. Last year, we funded it at 12,500, I believe.
well, no, that was the budget. It
Or
was
sorry, yes.
Just under 13, but yeah. So you're proposing 13. That's,
Potentially more, but just whether that is an event that the board feels is important to fund or through the programs and services budget.
Did any of those events get canceled last summer out of curiosity?
Sorry?
Did any of those events get canceled due to
No,
weather?
last year we had great weather. The year before that, I know we canceled movies at least twice. We may have canceled 1 or 2 concerts as well.
So this program includes movies afterwards.
This one doesn't.
Okay.
That's
That's
a standalone, and that's 100%
It's
sponsorship.
the same night, but it's,
It's a continuation of the experience.
right,
Correct.
It's a separate
Correct.
line item in the budget.
it's, I mean, you know, it was brought about because of all the stuff that's happening in everybody else's little towns, and us not having something makes it like, oh, well, we don't have to go to Petoskey Friday night because they don't do anything. And so the side of it is that the more that we can keep doing something, then we stay in there with competition in the other cities.
Is there any other line items that the marketing committee felt they could trim to be able to cover the deficit?
Well, that's, the downtown sound that is the off-season event we partner with Crooked Tree on.
Mhm.
So it usually starts November or December and runs through March.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, our sponsorship is 2,500. But their attendance is not, the events that I have attended have had maybe, and I got the statistics from Crooked Tree. They average 100 to 150 people per event. Because, I mean, it brings people downtown, but they also are a social district business, so people can go there, get a cocktail, watch a show, not necessarily,
It's a ticketed, right?
and it's a ticketed event.
Ticketed event where ours are free.
So for this year, we have 2,500 in our budget, which is what we had last year. The committee is recommending this year only sponsoring $500 and then removing our sponsorship for next year.
Of downtown sound. Or no,
Downtown sound.
So that would basically eliminate the event.
It depends if Crooked Tree, because it's Crooked Tree's event, and I know we sponsor it. Petoskey Area Visitors Bureau sponsors it. I don't know if they have others, but they could always try, you know, and this is what we struggle with. we sponsor these other events, then we're going to try to find sponsors for our events. So if we remove our sponsorship from that, they could conceivably go to other
They
businesses.
go outside of downtown for sponsorships more so than we can for our events as well, so.
I guess I enjoy the event. I think it's great to have. My concern is it just gets us back to, it's getting harder and harder to find space in the budget for all of the events. So is it an instance where we gotta cut something else to be able to do this more, or like if we're not able to generate the sponsorship dollars, which it sounds like we weren't able to do this year, we gotta come up with it somewhere. That's just where my thoughts are.
Well, that's part of the upcoming discussion on
Right.
fund balance. So if we feel strongly that this is an event that should continue and we need to pull from fund balance to balance the budget so we can fully fund this event, that's a very, I feel like I'm harping on fund balance, but I want to be able to go to council and say they're
Yeah.
very intentional of what they're doing and why they feel they need to hold this much in balance, why they're gonna spend this much. But again, it's that or we increase the assessment.
My feeling is always, make hay while the sun shines, so we get the most out of events that happen during peak season. And in the center of town, so if it means budgeting more for that event. Or removing some from an off-season event, that would be my preference personally. I think it's become a great part of experiencing summer downtown, to go to one of those concerts in the park, even if the weather's a little finicky. Here and there.
And you have the audience, so.
Yeah, they're enjoyed pretty broadly, often surprised by how many people are down there hanging out, yeah.
And there's a lot of businesses that stay open, and especially along the park that, I mean, the ice cream places, that's big business for them that night. They would, I know they're not here, but they would be very upset, I think, to see those go. They'll still get business, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think the goal of the discussion with, because I'm on that committee, was really like, okay, what can we pull our things? Because we know the sponsorships aren't happening and it's tough for people to do more and more sponsors. That at least if we're pulling, we still want to support some of these other things that happen in downtown, but yeah, we got to be covering our costs as much as we can, and where can we pull? But where do we then draw the line of, if we have a budget?
So just to be clear, we're sponsoring an event at the Arts Center, right?
Yeah.
Do they pay an assessment?
let me think about that. I can't remember. I think they do. Yep, they do pay an
They
assessment.
contribute to that assessment.
Yeah.
They don't pay taxes as a nonprofit.
Correct. And yeah, I mean, this amount's not gonna necessarily offset the increased expenditure.
But it's something.
It's something, yeah, it's again, it's one of those. We can't keep adding unless we're increasing revenue.
Right, that's my point, and we'll get there about how we feel like we need to increase or not, or use fund balance, but I would say to answer these particular things without answering how we're gonna bring in additional revenues, we would have to pull from another event at this juncture in the discussion, from my opinion, because it's like it's gotta come from somewhere. Now, if we wanna jump to the revenue question first and come back to that, we can, but.
Well, and we talked about keeping fund balance. We had a target amount that we decided on, right? for fund balance last meeting.
No, you don't have to sign on everything. Well, I will get there. I have a whole slide on
Okay,
that.
Yeah,
But,
Well-
okay, so we will get to them and then maybe come back to this, or not, maybe we'll just, I have kind of a general sense, and next time we look at the budget, you'll have more concrete numbers in front of you in terms of,
So
this is.
seems like there's a lot of support for the summer going to 5 weeks. From what I've heard.
Continue to run 5 weeks.
5 weeks, and then let's figure out how we can get there. In these next discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
That's
you're adding
not right.
anything else at this point until we figure out where more money's coming, but having 4 weeks is. 5 weeks gives you at least, 6 weeks to me would be optimum, because that's kind of like your prime summer months, but. I mean,
Five's the better than 4.
5 is better than.
4 is better than 0.
How
Okay.
much was the restaurant week funds that we were sponsoring?
So this was, it was 500. So the discussion at the committee was, all the participating businesses pay to be in Restaurant Week.
Correct.
We're doing a sponsorship of Restaurant Week, but what are we really getting for that? Would it be better to, hang on, I gotta admit someone. Let's see. Yeah, there's some, okay. You not necessarily cut that money from the budget, but use that money to either enhance the event through a giveaway of downtown dollars, or do extra marketing of the event in addition of just the downtown, which we do already. We do a lot of Facebook posts of just the downtown businesses that are participating. But it was just a question of, it didn't make sense to the committee to sponsor the chamber to put on the event. And I know the question's been raised, we only sponsor the fall Restaurant Week. So I guess that would be a question, do we want to, obviously we have an era budget this year, but do we want to go ahead and use that 500 sponsorship to the chamber this year? Or do we want to tell them we aren't interested in sponsoring Restaurant this week and spend that or this year and spend that money doing something else?
How meaningful is Restaurant Week these days?
It's a good question. I can speak to our locations only. And it is impactful for us. Definitely it's a bump, and it did lose. It's gaining momentum again. It lost momentum, I think, in COVID times. A lot of people didn't participate, and we didn't do it a year or two. But we've always we kind of helped the chamber run it, Wine Guys. And it's always been a curious thing, the limited participation from restaurants. There's about 12 or 13 that are doing it, 4 of those are ours. So there's more than that downtown, but it does make an impact for the ones that do it. I just don't know why.
more people doesn't wanna do it,
Yeah.
and it's a wide geographical pull. The last time I noticed, like, there's a lot of restaurants that are like, which is, in my opinion, the more the merrier.
Right.
But especially because the
Sure.
Petoskey Chamber has a presence throughout northern Michigan. But it's also a wider geographical pull as well that the downtown is like contributing to, just as like a point.
Right, it's not all.
It's not just downtown.
So that is something to consider.
Yeah.
So I can, as a DMB person, I can for sure see why that sponsorship might not make sense. As a restaurant person, I also think, a lot of even places around our cities, Traverse City, for instance, is a huge thing for all the restaurants there that participate, way bigger than here as far as they're packed. in those times, and we do it in May and November, so.
Does Harbor Springs coincide with Jasky?
No, they have their own different time. So it can be, you know, if it's marketed and a lot of people are participating, it's a thing that people plan to come up for. When they know they can get it, but
I'm sure the DMB's $500 sponsorship doesn't make or break the event.
it does not, I don't think so. I think it helps. I think it's always been
Yeah,
a
of course.
thing, but I think it would probably be just as impactful to like figure out ways to enhance it other ways that we have better reach than the dollars. Probably are more impactful.
I think as the events committee, it's not that we don't want to sponsor any of those things. We'd love to keep sponsoring, but to your point of where does the money come from?
Sure.
To do our own events, how do you then,
Just.
how do you justify both without at least pulling? How do we say, hey, let's go to this fund if we're not even trying to pull more money where we need it to be too? So, cause I hate seeing that. I mean, cricketry brings so much for downtown and brings people in for so many reasons. And people that come and do events will go to dinner, do those things, and I hate to see all of that, but if we're not getting the sponsorships that we need somehow, at least that's something that we can tell people that we're pulling to for these reasons.
And maybe figuring out ways to raise revenues, you know, more meaningful as we go forward. There are still two ways to do that, right?
Mhm.
Parking and assessment.
Not in this fund, but
Fair.
Right, so it may be slightly different than when you're on the board. Council has gotten more strict on parking only goes, it does not go to programs and services. So
Assessment.
well,
all programs and events are, marketing programs, events are all coming out of the assessment.
Yeah, it's there, it has become very, there's two separate funds. Now, to your point, there actually are two funding sources. You can rely on the assessment, or we can go out and we can get sponsorship dollars. So technically, yes, there are two funding sources, but that's.
And the one
Or-
caveat to the no is the sponsorships for the trolley go to marketing because it's seen as a placemaking more than really transportation. So. Okay, all right, so I have good direction on that. Then just to review our budget for this year. This door. Total budget is, programs and services is 214,720. The annual special assessment is covering 58% of that. The proposed budget has fund balance at 17%, sponsorships at 23%, and that's, penalties and interest 2%, so tight. And I'd say this is the budget, so if we're not getting the sponsorships, we'll end up pulling more from fund balance, obviously, because that's the only other revenue source we have. So speaking of and again, these are just trying to get initial development budget development questions. We had a discussion in a couple of meetings ago about fund balance. What is the purpose of the fund balance, and what is a adequate level or the correct level to keep in there? And the direction that I kind of heard, but it was not a definitive, was we should keep a year's worth of assessment in the event that something, you know, and say that's $125,000. That's what it is this year. In case some natural disaster happens and we decide we're not gonna do an assessment that year, we at least have money to put on the programs that we would have put on. That was kind of the discussion. It was 1 year, it was 1.25 year. this is the chart is historically, what's happened with it. We project this year to end at about 170 in, fund balance. So the question being, is the board comfortable with the year? Should it be more? Do you want to limit the use of fund balance to 1% of the budget? Or is the goal to work towards the annual assessment covering 100% of the budget?
Question, did we waive the special assessment during the pandemic?
I don't believe so.
I think we stopped, we didn't increase it for a few years.
So we didn't do that annual increases or something, or cost
I'm
of,
only asking for context in terms of like, what natural disaster would be required for us to not have that
Yeah.
revenue source, and it gives context to how much of a reserve is actually meaningful, or how much we can actually depend on recurring revenue from the special assessment. It sounds like
yeah.
the circumstances under which we would forego it are hard to imagine, at least in this moment, if we continued to assess during the pandemic.
True.
Which maybe makes you less conservative about maintaining a balance.
Yeah, there's a compelling argument on both sides for sure of either maintaining a fund balance or it was contributed for a purpose, so therefore it should be used for that purpose even in that calendar year that it's contributed. So there is certainly a compelling argument to be made on both sides from my view. And the reason we have it is mostly because those events got canceled during the pandemic.
Right.
So, so to your point, we did still receive funds, we just didn't use them at that time. So I think more of the discussion of it's sitting there, how are we gonna be like good stewards of using down that fund balance, but at the same time, it's still there and it's harder and harder and harder for us to get it back. So does it make sense to sit on, X or Y amount? So that we get ourselves back into a little bit more of an equilibrium rather than saying, we took all these funds, we have a big fund balance, let's just do everything that we can because we have the funds and we can just pull it out of the account. And I think that's what council wants us to go away from, because obviously that's gonna dry up. Like for the last 3 years, we've been at a deficit on this side of the budget, and that's what we've received quite a bit of headwind on in the last budget cycle, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's just, you can't, eventually you're not gonna be able to pull from that, which we all understand.
It's not making money every year to cover what we might pull out of it,
Right.
right? I mean,
Well, and the changes that occurred was the addition of the marketing and promotions office. Separating those had additional costs cause now all the costs of staffing and office is in this budget, whereas staffing historically was all out of parking. So that was just an increased pressure on this budget, so that's why we're using it, but again, I mean, an assessment is supposed to be for a purpose. So if it's, if the goal of the board is to make sure we're doing at least 5 weeks of Sounds of Summer or increasing that to go 6 weeks. And to do that, we need to come and take from fund balance, then that's a very specific reason why we're doing it. And at some point though, we're gonna have to increase assessments more than cost of living to cover it. And is that better to do incrementally faster now? It's just hard to do it when you have this money sitting there. You're increasing people's assessments. Granted, everything's more expensive, so you're trying to cover your costs. But you look at this and we get interest off it, which is great, but
Yeah, but I think, you know, we maintain a fund balance in the parking fund too, right?
yeah, parking fund, yeah.
Operationally, it makes sense to me to use this fund balance to cover deficits in the next couple of years
Mhm.
in lieu of raising the assessment above the cost of living.
Do you put a limit on how much you tap from it?
So what's the limit?
Is,
Yeah,
It's-
no, I don't.
is there any way that we can use some of the fund balance to make it easier to balance future budgets? As far as like any of these events and investing in some part of them, whether, I guess I don't know, are all the costs with them mostly like marketing or what is the cost of the event specifically, but some equipment instead of renting it, could we spend some of the money on the said equipment and then help us balance future budgets along those lines? It's an
I
idea.
mean, the only thing I can think of is, are we gonna replace our movie projector really we don't have a lot of capital expense or upfront expense for this. I mean, when you purchased all the movie stuff, that was a big hit the year it happened. But it's been how many, I don't remember what year that happened, but, I mean, we could say we need to plan, kind of do our capital plan of, that's really only capital expense.
So I mean, for the specific, like for a lot of the events, what would you say the bulk of the costs are for the events themselves? Is it advertising or is it?
A lot of it is advertising, yes. All right, so, I won't do the ones that are primarily sponsored, so. Sounds, if we have the musicians, it's the cost of the musicians, the sound person. And then we give some money to Bliss for organizing it for us. Winter Wonderland Weekend, it's the purchase of ice sculptures in the park versus in front of the stores. It's the carriage rides, the marketing. Let's see, holiday parade. I mean, that's it. For the events, there's some purchase of things for it, but a lot of it is the marketing of that event.
You submit a budget annually to the city council?
Yeah.
So would it be reasonable to say, this is the upcoming budget is the 2027 budget.
Mhm.
In that year, we will use these funds to address whatever percentage of it that we need to address any budget shortfalls. We don't need to make a long-term proposal to city council.
No,
They just wanna know when we're gonna stop dipping into the excess, or like the excess funds.
or
Why
the
do we have-
decision of the board could be,
We're not
we're
gonna
gonna use
maintain
it
it.
till it's gone, because we don't want a fund balance in this account.
We could, it's just never gonna come back. That'd be my counterpoint.
Right.
It's never gonna
But-
come back, correct?
But I just think when the budget goes forward, as long as there's a clear message of why we're doing what we're doing, it just makes it easier.
That's what that.
We believe in, sorry,
I was gonna say, I wasn't on the board when this change happened, so why did we stop taking some of the money from the parking fund to go towards our events?
And then,
I think it's because there was the physical separation of the offices. So it's, okay, so we have a separate marketing and promotions office, it's gotta stand on its own.
the city council made that determination.
I don't think city council did. I think that was the DMB proposal, but what they did, if I recall, because it was the year before. It was the 24 budget. So I didn't create, so when they split the offices, they took a chunk from parking to kind of help set up the marketing and promotion. It was like a one-time, and I don't even remember how much it was. Might have been like 150 to 200,000 to try to get, so it could be some of this is still leftover parking revenue, like, you know. But after the 2024 budget, no, the 25 budget, 26 budget did not take it, other than the sponsorships from the trolley, which isn't really coming from the parking fund, it's just a sponsorship, the parking fund pays for the operations of the trolley, sponsorships go to marketing and promotions, image campaign.
I mean, it's an open question, but it's within our rights to propose to council that we go back to a model where we use some parking service funds not to exceed 5% or 10% of the fund balance to offset promotions and marketing.
You can make that proposal.
Can I ask?
I mean, yeah,
It makes sense to me that the marketing and promotions budget and revenues and expenses go to the marketing and promotions. Like, that's what those funds are raised for. And if we're looking at the parking fund has its own function and use. What we'd be effectively asking them to reconsider is, are you okay with us kind of blending the accounts again? It's my interpretation that they are relatively adverse to that. But we can always ask.
and
I don't know how I
Just
feel, I
asking the
just was
question,
more
yeah.
trying to understand why the switch happened and. So, cause I know what a lot of the parking fund goes to. Just trying to understand also though, like, so does the parking fund, I don't remember, does the parking fund have an excess every year at this point, or is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, last year, I think we had,
Depends on how much snow.
It depending on, yeah, so snow is a big one, capital outlay is another big one, and so in year.
Doing the parking lots.
Right,
and all that
right,
stuff.
so in the last couple of years, what was that, 24?
24, no,
We had it.
25, 26.
Yeah, and this is more just education for the new members on the board too, but there's, we had a joint session where because for a long time, we were looking to build up that account as much as we could to be able to put up a parking deck or whatever, the better way to say it is to increase the volume of parking in the downtown.
Inventory, yes.
Inventory, sure. So there's city council and our board had a joint session and we came to the mutual agreement that that's no longer the focus. And so instead, let's get all of our lots back in like serviceable condition. And so that's what we've been doing the last several years. And that has gotten more and more and more expensive. I don't know anything that's gotten less expensive.
It's also a really meaningful, great change.
It is, yep. So we're definitely well on our way, and that discussion we'll have on the parking like fund. And so, I think part of that initiative was helping us to bring both of those two revenue centers and accounts a little bit separate so that one had its focus of we're gonna get our lots back in order and kind of focus on those things, and then the promotions handles the promotions of downtown. The bigger change on the expense side is the administration level. That's the big change.
Amy, out of curiosity, how much of your time do you spend on the programs and services side of the role?
Well, right now, my gosh.
But the only reason I'm asking is because your salary is funded 100% through the parking fund.
Correct.
So it's a bit of a false division at this point.
True, you could say there is some of that, but because I oversee both offices, but I would say probably 30 to 40%.
Is that just because Mrs. is gone right now?
Yeah, we're missing.
No, now it's almost,
More.
now it's probably
80.
80 to, yeah.
So under normal operations, 30 to 40%.
And if I remember, correctly on the parking capital outlay projections for the lots coming up around schedule, we're gonna hit the bottom of the balance.
Right, well,
Or like, we're gonna have to push some kind of,
and we're gonna take a break, so we're not doing any lots next year. And I think the next year after that, we were looking maybe at Clifton. The big one's gonna be Darling, and the reason we keep kicking that is is it always gonna be a surface lot? Is it a surface lot with carports? Is it a surface lot with something else? Is it a development site? What is the Petrie lot? Is the Petrie lot a development site? But what we are going to have capital expense for next year is to start replacing our inventory of meters, because the meter housing. They're starting to look terrible, and talking to Traverse City, they just have in their budget every year, they replace so many of them because it's not worth the time and effort to go and try and paint them. And so that's gonna be, because we haven't done that in so long, we're gonna start that next year.
but the gist of the parking budget is it's a surplus every year except for capital outlays.
Correct.
And so the net of those is where we're at with that.
Right. The operations are probably at least 100,000. Bring in more, at least 100,000 more than we spent.
Yeah.
So, okay, well,
Thank you. I know that was off topic a little, I just wanted to
It's good
understand better.
context. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think,
it's hard to, and that last year, if you recall, I brought forward programs and services because it's a very long process. And I know the mayor was like, why do we only have one budget? And it was like, well, we gotta focus on this now, but I'll try to, and because our projections on revenue in August are so off base. So, but we can bring a, early draft of parking to get a picture when programs and services going, but waiting until September, October, we're gonna have a much better understanding of where the revenue is gonna be. I have to say on the parking, we were worried May was just gonna be devastating with all of the construction. But we really aren't off that much from last year, with the exception of the Petrie lot, which is not bringing in a lot of revenue. So, okay,
Being understaffed in parking also means that we're in a little bit more favorable position in terms of projected expenses, right?
yeah, yeah, and we're pretty full. We just hired a temporary summer person, so they're doing pretty well. Like April was telling me, she's like, it was so crazy out there today. It was like a July day and it's only Tuesday, but that's good.
So I don't know if we got any closer to answering your question, but
Well, at least
Maybe.
again, because we're early, I just want you to start thinking about it. And when we come forward with numbers, if they make sense, and we're like, of course, this would just come out of the fund balance because that's what the money is there to do.
So do you want individual opinions on that or no?
Sure.
Like go around I'm in favor for $500. Is that the amount? 500? Like
For-
supporting the event? Is that what
Oh.
you,
Wait,
no,
well, I mean,
you're back to.
You're looking for just for broader perspective on how
Right.
to
it's a
address.
fund balance, yeah.
like, does anyone have a strong feeling in terms of fund balance that we should be keeping
A certain.
a year's
Certain
worth
number
or?
None, or let's build it to 1 million. I mean, like, there's a lot of different ways. Do we need none? Right, I mean, there's any answer is sufficient. It's just how are we best stewarding that money is what I would be more concerned about.
Personally, I don't see a situation where that revenue goes away. I think there's certainly some wisdom in maintaining some fund balance as a kind of a rainy day fund. It's 50% of where we are today. But use the rest to make up any deficits for programs and services. Going forward, that's just, I'm not wedded to 50%, I just,
That's where the 1 year came from for me, it's just I picked a number.
yeah.
Certainly less than what it's at now. I think that would be safe to say at 170.
Say 100 grand.
I mean, I think you could do less than that. Less than 100. But
6 months?
Which
Which
is
6
fun.
months?
Great question. Summer,
Yeah,
you know, May through October.
I'm feeling that that's money that we should be using as well for our events. I'd love to see our events covering themselves, but I think we have some years that might be easier than others. These last few years have been tough economies, and we do have that money, and I do like keeping some in there because maybe with COVID, we didn't, but we didn't even realize that we didn't stop doing assessments, that if something like that happens again, it might be something that we might want to offer if we still have the fund balance, or to put towards advertising when things aren't there. So I would hate to see it drain completely, but I do think that that money is also there for us to be using responsibly,
Well, I was,
so that I don't have to keep doing sponsors for other stuff, because I did already pay some money and it's there.
another question that came up during this last construction was, should those businesses that were impacted get a tax rebate? Well, that doesn't happen, but is the assessment something we should be using?
We've all endured seasons of construction in front of our businesses. It's undesirable. It never goes as planned. It always takes longer. I totally relate to the frustrations of some folks downtown, but
it looks really
death and
nice.
taxes.
Done.
well, I
And
mean,
it needs to be done.
They
It looks
did
great.
Lake and
I
Howard.
would much rather be doing business in a town that is actually taking care of stuff. And the
Degrading.
yeah, the other side of that is we just never do construction, and then we just have a dirt road. And so,
Thought I'd throw it out there.
yeah,
Good, no, that's good. Chris, I don't wanna skip you. Do you have a
I'm in favor of 100 or less.
100 left? Okay. I guess I'm the only counterpoint, which is fine. I think that's great. I would. Now, it's difficult to say why we would want a year's worth, whether we transition out of the assessment and we can still pull off all the programs. Whether we wanna put a giant U2 concert in the middle of town, I don't know, but there could be in theory someday that we wanna have an ability to do something large for the city. And so just the way that the assessment is functioning today in my seat, I don't see it being easier for us to reclaim money into this account through an assessment means. And so therefore, I think it's better to preserve some of that. It doesn't need to be preserved to the level that it's at, so I would probably get behind something like 100,000, or as long as we have like a reasonable, like, this is our number that we feel comfortable with as a board, I think that's great,
just,
so.
and just a year is more than we have now,
Mhm.
215.
So 6 months, which 6 months, or, whatever,
Right.
but I think it was 125 was like our year, we're
Yeah.
just.
We were saying a year would be like just the assessments we
Yeah.
collected
Oh,
this year
yeah,
with 125.
Not
Not our whole budget.
So we're talking
one
100,000 or less, and your counterpoint is like 125,000.
is
Not
the,
214.
yes, so mine is not a year's worth of budget expenses, mine is a year's worth of assessment value. Sorry, I should have.
And can you expand on that concern about our ability to collect assessment dollars?
It's who wants to go higher, I mean, so
Politically,
every
it's hard to
year,
raise the rate.
right, so I mean, every year and actually, your history on the board is probably better than even ours, just because there was years that we went up by 10%, then we'd not increase for like 4 years, and then we'd go by 12 and then not do it for 3. And now we've moved into kind of a cost of living adjustment. What we're realizing as we go through some of these conversations of, we'd really like to have 5 concerts. Well, those are pretty expensive, and the assessment is not offsetting what that is. So the full intention of the assessment, from my understanding and interpretation, was we don't need to go around town asking for money, because everyone just agrees that there's a certain amount of money that we're putting into a pot so that we can self-promote. And so, there's a lot of different ways that different places do that. But ours has been this for several years. What we're, I think, identifying, and we'll probably have to expand this conversation, is the revenues of the assessment are not covering what we're hoping to achieve out of the promotions. So because of that trend, it's gonna be harder to recuperate that. So that would be my counterpoint argument of saying, it's not a bad thing that we grew it, but it's certainly a good point to say we should use those funds because that's what they're there for. So,
So maybe Amy, you wanna recommend a number that's kind of came out of this conversation or do you want a hard figure from the board?
No, I don't want a hard figure right now. I'm just,
You understand the tone of it, yeah.
and moving forward with the numbers in the budget, and then we'll just have to decide, does that
I think
reflect what the discussion was?
Yeah.
Cause I don't see us going down to
We don't need-
125 in this budget cycle
Right.
necessarily.
what we really need to do is figure out how we can have it balanced.
right.
And still do the events that are impactful that we want and have it balanced every year, so
Yeah.
this doesn't really matter.
Right, and we
This
can't.
covered. We don't have to have
Sorry.
this conversation.
And we can't send Amy and just say, we're just gonna keep doing it until we're done pulling out of the assessment balance. We need to be a little bit more like, this is why we're pulling from it, these are the things we're trying to accomplish. And this is the end of the road for us, because from the tone of city council that I heard when it came up was more like, our city council has very forward thinking and they just wanna make sure that we're in a good spot across the city. Now, our fund is a little different, but that's certainly prudent, is to think about, like, we can't keep spending more than we make, so.
It's interesting to me, just given how we used to operate. I mean, this board used to be a little more self-governing than it seems to be right now in terms of its use of funds. There was less front-footed oversight of our
I think we're getting more
budget
scrutiny.
process.
Mhm.
We're getting more scrutiny. I think part of that came when we raised meter rates. And there were strings attached, at least from the council, in terms of getting that through. And maybe they took a greater interest in our use of funds at that point.
Could be.
But it's interesting to me that there's this much.
You'd have to ask council, but.
It's a different council.
Sure.
We've had a couple different councils, but the other point is we actually did decrease a lot of, at the request of council, is we decreased a lot of those ancillary fees.
Right.
And parking is a whole other
Yeah,
thing
of
we're gonna have
course.
to cover, but we've tried to find a nice balance between those two things of, yes, we did increase meter rates, but we decreased other penalties. And so,
We talked about it.
I actually think where maybe the extra attention is when we physically separated. Because they wanted to make sure now that this pot wasn't supporting this pot.
Mhm.
But
But that was their preference at the time. That's not
well, that was the DMB one, you know.
I see.
based on
That
the
was
strategic
not
plan.
their preference. I think that was, the DMB was interested in having the public perceived positive side and negative side offices be in their own space. So that they were like promoting events in a space that people were upset about a parking ticket.
Oh, yeah, that's been the long term.
So that was the thing I was talking about for a while. That's
Mhm.
why the split happened. I do think you're right as far as scrutiny happened with that, because then it was like, well, what is this?
I see.
we're
I
trying to
have-
grow into
I
the
have a
future.
question on just in general, thinking of like, okay, I'm just thinking about, oh, we gotta balance this budget. What can we do to that? We don't make money on any event as a DM, which, not that we should, I'm just wanna clarify it, like, pretty much.
Yeah.
And sponsorships are never gonna be over our costs.
We make a small, although we won't, because I ended up using another shopping map distributor. We have in the past made money on the shopping map. Last year, we lost money on the shopping map. This year will be pretty even because we have, because we increased the cost of ads. But we're using two different map distributors to try to get them out more. So no, and then winter weekend, we really don't, unless we get an outside entity that wants to do ice sculpture. So Brown Motors does one, and just the cost of that is 400 versus the 250 that if they were downtown business. So
The other
it's
ones are kind of offsetting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of like for sidewalks says, when we have an outside vendor that comes in, they have to pay because they're not paying the assessment.
Right.
So that's the only time really we make money on an event.
This is great discussion, just in the interest of time, is there anything else that we want to cover on this particular?
Don't believe so.
This is super valuable discussion, so thank everybody for engaging. So, want to jump into reports by committee, is there anything else I said?
That was helpful.
Good, yes, cool. Reports by committees and staff.
Okay, so committees, we did not have quorum for marketing and promotions or design committee this month, so those committees did not meet. And we canceled the parking, mobility, accessibility because we just didn't have agenda items. The ordinance that went to city council had its first reading and will have its second reading. The second meeting of July, it would have been the first meeting, but April is out and I'm gonna ask her to speak to that. So that'll be July 20th, that will go to city council.
How'd the first reading go?
Sorry.
How'd the first reading go?
Overall good. There's some disagreement amongst council members between immobilization and towing. Some support one, not the other, some support both. So I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Sure.
There was support for the fee, the fine waiver. And-
Vehicle month.
Yeah, the
We won't call it
We won't
amnesty.
call it amnesty,
I
but
had
it's
another
called-
name. It's called,
the
so that they were supportive of that. But in terms of other parking updates, Park Garden is complete. Again, we do have one new seasonal ambassador and she's off to a really good start. The trolley just got parked outside the gazebo today and starts on the 25th. And April and Bob took it to Public Works to wash it today, which was great because before we took it up to the RV place. But it was great. They took it to DPW and April wanted to make sure we thanked DPW for that. She was in her office and she saw there was like this lineup from people from the trolley to the gazebo and it's like, people are lining up to take pictures with the trolley. It's almost like our welcome to Petoskey mural, but it's 3-dimensional.
Well, maybe it does belong in the park.
So
then.
I have long advocated for an historic train car on the rails in the park. It's like a cool.
It does get discussed.
I think we're going to explore turning the trolley into a stage.
Or a stationary
That would
trolley.
be cool.
cut the side off, make it the stage, call it a day.
So let's see, talked about the second reading of the towing and mobilization ordinance. Employee permits with an increase in summer hiring. The ambassadors are actively trying to encourage merchants to get the $30 permits for employees. The city attorney did send a letter to the failed payment plan recipient. And they have until July 21st to come current on their payment plan, or we go back to the judge and start likely garnishment of wages. In 20, let's see. I guess year to date, last year, 87% of citations were paid on time or within however much time. This year, we're at 75%. Right, I'm not understanding the next note she gave me, so I'm gonna skip over that one. Let's see. Events, concerts and movies in the park are both set. Our sponsors, we have 2 board members, business sponsors who are sponsors of movies in the park, so thank you, American Spoon and Bear.
I didn't know that. That's news to me.
All right, it's Lynn.
Thanks, Glenn.
And let's see, so sidewalk sales. The posters will go out, we'll start marketing that probably. I think I have to get all my ads out by the end of this month for that. Again, we're having the Great Lakes Brass Band coming through on Friday late afternoon. And we had tentatively put out the question of just leaving the streets closed Friday night. But we're not going to do that. Actually, the city was fine with it, so maybe for next year, we consider it and we try to program stuff in the streets after hours.
Sweet.
Let's see, we've had minimal well, we have some of the nonprofits coming back and a couple outside vendors who've shown interest in locating on Upper Mitchell. The committee also was gonna explore like a mini car show, just basically in front of the vacant buildings on Upper Mitchell. But I don't have any status update on that. Let's see, I don't think I have anything else. Oh, has to wait. Did have a discussion with the band director on the change date of the parade. Need to have more discussions with him on that. Tentatively, they will consider doing it the Thanksgiving weekend with a shorter route. But he did point out that, we need to enhance the parade instead of just it being the band coming and a bunch of vehicles. So we're going to be encouraging downtown businesses to get involved in this parade. Again, shopping maps, 11,000 of them have gone out to distributors, so that should get a lot more coverage. And we are, Friday was the deadline for the marketing and promotions position. We didn't get a lot of applications, but we do have 3 very strong candidates and we're gonna try and schedule interviews doesn't look like next week might work, but potentially the week after. So that's it for committees, or staff, I guess, staff.
Did you mention where the city council is with the bike ordinance?
Sorry?
Did you mention where the city council is with the bike ordinance?
Oh, so they did the first reading on or was it, I think it was first reading on the bike ordinance that the DMB had made their recommendation, and that the recommendation that it be the central business district and Park Avenue, with the concern being bikes and storefronts. The ordinance in front of them is still for the central business district and the park reserve district between Bay and Mitchell. But essentially our recommendation and the Parks Commission recommendation were the same, is let the upper area be used for biking with better signage. And the discussion was that they need to move forward on updating their non-motorized plan.
Just so I understand, the Parks and Rec Committee voted 8-0 to keep the upper section of the park open for bikes, right?
I don't know what the exact vote was of that.
Yeah. I mean,
That,
I don't know, that was in their meeting, we had our meeting.
And then you had the meeting afterwards, and given that context, you were agnostic on the park, right?
We recommend the same thing, right?
essentially,
Essentially, the upper part of the,
Keep that open.
keep that open, not along the storefront side of the park.
yeah, I
It's
think the.
nuance, right? I just saw somebody ride a bike along this side of the pit, right? That's in the CBD, right?
Right.
But not in front of a storefront.
No, it was just the discussion at the DMB was that the
Yeah.
concern is storefronts. But that's still central business district zoning, so if the CBD is prohibits bikes from running on sidewalks, it would be relevant there as well.
Okay. I've just been surprised to see the city council move to a second reading of an ordinance that prohibits bikes on the upper section of the park.
Sounds,
Does anyone have any thoughts or opinions on that?
My thought and opinion is it's up to city council now. I mean, there's nothing, I mean, they asked us for our opinion. We gave, now it's up to them, you know? like
Yeah,
they're-
it's meaningful to me as a past board member. Been part of a lot of work that was about, it's germane to parking, right? How do we relieve stress on the parking system? We encourage people to bike into town. We encourage them to bike into town on the Greenway corridor. And yes, we want them to be conscientious. We have a new issue around e-bikes. There's plenty of nuance that can happen in this conversation, but for decades, the beautiful goal was the family biking in from Bayview and having ice cream downtown, that this was kind of what we as a community were investing in. So my head's spinning, not because there aren't reasonable compromises, not because we can't say, yeah, let's be vigilant about bikes in front of storefronts, but to shut down that vital non-motorized trail seems, like a huge step backwards for the city. And I think there's room if the board wants to make it clear that, again, not that we've kind of deferred that piece of the puzzle to the Parks and Rec Board, but that we hope the city council keeps that section of the Greenway open to cyclists. I think there's room to say that, or at least have Amy communicate that on our behalf. And again, we only have 5 members here. I know it's not a huge.
I appreciate the opinion. I think we did what they asked, to be honest. Like, I feel like at this point, they're the ones that are reviewing it, so I feel like we brought it to them and we discussed it, so.
And that was our opinion,
Right.
what you're saying.
What you're saying is our
Chose-
opinion, so we're not
we all
even
agreed.
contrary, so.
Right.
Yeah, I just think there's a lack of clarity on council about that.
Well, then that's up to council.
So again, our position as a board was to keep the Greenway corridor open.
It was more specific to bikes should not be on sidewalks in front of storefronts.
Yeah.
It was, and it was kind of, the park is the park, that's not,
So we were agnostic on that, in fact.
I can't speak for the board, but
I would-
my understanding is the focus was on sidewalks by storefronts, you should not be riding bikes, scooters, skateboards.
And it just for context, in the past, when there were areas of concern, the DMB, your dad used to do it, right? We would send an emissary to council and we would say, hey, just so you guys are clear, we hope X happens, or we hope the Greenway remains open. I mean, I sat on the park recently and watched, people who work at the city park ride in on the greenway very respectfully, park, behind the restaurant, watch kids, come in and go to Happy's Tacos and get tacos. I'd hate to lose some of that magic that is Petoskey in the summer downtown. Not because we don't have a problem that we want to manage proactively, but because the Greenway corridor, the upper section of Penn Park, it's always been a non-motorized, it was sold to us as a non-motorized trail for cyclists. The rollout hasn't been perfect. We wanted to widen it. We wanted to pull up train tracks. But, the other thing that's germane is, having looked into this, the police department doesn't have any record of any bike pedestrian incidents in the CBD in the last 3 years. So as much as it's a potential risk, I know we see it. My wife saw a kid drive down the sidewalk on Howard at 40 miles an hour today. It still thinks I still feel like there's something sacred about the Greenway as a non-motorized trail, not just for walkers, but for rollerbladers and bicyclists, particularly to come into town and work in our businesses.
Well, and I would also add that, the design committee spent a long time trying to figure out how do we accommodate bikes, and came up with that concept of creating, a bikeway that followed the rails, but the actual rails weren't there, they were inset. The public didn't like that, and actually it was kind of, well, it's not the purview of the DMB, that's parks. So the DMB really shouldn't be weighing,
Yeah, for future reference, I don't know if we'll ever do this, but I used to advocate for a joint committee of Parks and Rec and DMB to talk about Penn Park because it's so central to both entities and we should be talking jointly about it. But that's an aside. It would be my preference that, somebody from the DMB go to the city council and at least say,
I was gonna write a letter, cause I can't make the meeting, but I was gonna do it more from
as an individual.
as an individual in my business of having staff that ride their bikes and bringing people to every reason that you just said, that why would you take that upper part away? That should not. I don't know if that needs to come from this board or not, but as an
Well-
individual business, I wasn't here for that meeting.
Yeah,
So
that's fine, and I'm glad we had the discussion. I do feel like that was what our board discussed, and like everything that we're talking about now was something we talked about. And like 3 out of the 5 city council members even referenced watching our meeting. So I think they're relatively aware of the discussion that we had. So that's one of the benefits of having them recorded, because our meetings are recorded. Now, it was also mentioned that some of the others aren't, that's fine, but ours are recorded, so people are able to see them. So it sounds like the mayor was also here through the entire meeting. I went to a meeting. So I think we've covered a lot of bases. It's just to city council. So I don't know if there's an additional step that our board needs to take, because we've done what they asked us to do. So,
We're an independent board. I mean, again, I just would hate to see that the outcome of this process, the outcome of legitimate concern over bikes downtown, is that the Greenway gets shut down. And it started out of your office, right? That's where the energy started, with sandwich boards downtown, concern over July traffic, right? And that in the end, we didn't get what we wanted. We didn't get a ban on bikes in front of sidewalks. We got a ban on the Greenway. That would be a really unfortunate outcome of a process we initiated as a board.
well, and I
It would be
think,
like collateral damage to an otherwise meaningful process that is a degradation of decades of thoughtful planning toward increased non-motorized access to downtown. And I just think it's really sad, potentially.
well, thanks for sharing the opinion. Yeah, I think I understand, but I mean, I think we made our, as a board, we made it pretty clear.
So if the city council meeting is happening and you're there and they start talking about it, is it something that you could say, hey, they were talking about it again and want to make sure that that they are pretty adamant that they want to keep the greenscape open? I don't know if that's everybody or if that's something we need to vote on or something, but if they don't talk about it or they don't ask, then I don't know if it's something that.
This
needs to
isn't
be
even an
brought up.
agenda item, so, I
Well,
mean, I'm glad we're talking about it, but it's not even something that's.
It wasn't an agenda item when we put up no bike signs last summer either.
No, it wasn't.
I think,
The council discussion was that, yes, we need to figure something out. We need to update the non-motorized plan. But I think there were legitimate concerns about the upper path, the hedges, the gap where people come out, so there's a lot of concerns about using that as the throughway. And it's not that they can't be addressed. I think what I was hearing council saying is until we can address those things, we should not let it be a throughway.
Doesn't that sound draconian? Like, given that there's no evidence of any bike pedestrian related incidents in the downtown, doesn't a ban sound on that particular section sound
Well-
extremely reactionary?
at this point, I think that's a discussion at the city council level. I hate to keep saying that, but this is the downtown management board. We did what we were asked of, and I think that discussion, if it has validity, which I'm not saying it doesn't.
Yeah.
Should be taken to them, because we're not the ones that are gonna say this is the policy or not.
No, that's exactly what I'm
And so-
asking, is that if we wanna keep that open, we might make that explicit. But if there's no appetite on the board.
I'm
Do you
hearing.
have any feelings? I still have about this issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I guess my interpretation of what I'm hearing from everyone in this current meeting is, I think we said we said in our meeting what we're saying now, but you're advocating for a reiteration or a stronger reiteration at the council meeting or doing that, and I guess I don't know what it all could be for now. I don't really know what they're looking at.
They'll still act independently, like they'll still act.
Well, I know that, I'm just like, I mean, I think, I'm not sure how big of a concern if they're, which way they're leaning or not, like, does it mean something?
It's a concern for me if my employees can't bike to work anymore on.
Sure.
I don't know if that's
I think I think there is a bigger concern and that we're not gonna solve tonight or just on this board, but we do wanna make it a very accessible space for all sorts of transportation, especially with biking and e-biking, and that, that does helps the volume of parking needed. When we've talked about that as accessibility is not just, why we're not just a parking committee, why it's accessibility is that we want it to be easy for people to get here in an enjoyable fashion. So that, I think there's for sure ways that we can make it better. And we need to.
So can Amy communicate on our behalf to the council that the DMB hopes the Greenway remains open?
I don't think that's something that I'm hearing everybody here wanting to do. So I'm
Show
hearing,
of hands.
so Becky,
I
Okay.
would, but I wasn't here for the other
Yeah,
discussion,
fair.
so I understand that, like, I don't wanna take away from.
The process that happened.
Right, but
okay, so I see two.
Well, I guess, that's what we decided last,
Right,
right? So, I was in favor of it then, and I'm still in favor of having that part open. Is what we decided, so,
Just so you know what your motion was,
yeah.
is
I think it was
recommend city council an ordinance prohibiting bicycles from central business district sidewalk and Park Avenue.
So that's the point, is that wasn't maybe clear in our ordinance. And
It
in
wasn't.
DMB's vote, our position on the Greenway maybe wasn't clear in our vote, and perhaps it could be made more explicit.
It had the carve out in it.
Sorry.
What's
Didn't we
that?
have the carve out for the greenway space? And
It just said and Park Avenue, but it didn't say.
Right, and what I sent, I believe, was
I thought you added
No.
it then.
based on.
I think I said it in one draft of the motion, but I don't know if it got into there as far as not having that.
So what we need to do is make a motion to amend to add.
Well, we already agreed on consent.
I mean, it's not on the agenda, so.
Not on the agenda, that's, yeah, but I think we can say, please, Amy, make that nuance clear to the city council that we want the Greenway to remain open to bicycles. While we proceed with hopefully a more thorough review of the non-motorized trail network.
My point, I think it would be, cause it sounded like after city council, they have a lot of appetite for the non-motorized plan. I think the DMB, and this is just my opinion now, is I think us having the initiative to say, we would love to see this non-motorized plan because that accomplishes all the things that you're describing. So we would love to be a part of that and help to bring that to fruition. To me, that's something that's better to communicate than just something that we've already said as a board.
I think the nuance is maybe we thought we said it, but we didn't.
Well, that's fine. That's okay. But I would like to say, we would love to have a non-motorized plan, because I think that's actually like a valuable thing that they want to take on. And that's something that impacts all of us in this room.
Could we say both?
What? I don't even know how we got to this discussion, but that's, I'd actually like to call a point of order and move along, but we can finish the discussion. But we can take a vote if we'd like to say that, but it's not even an agenda item. So if we want to bring this back as an agenda item, we could certainly do that too.
It doesn't change the outcome of the original vote. It's just a meaningful point of clarity for council that, well, that language wasn't contained in the original motion. It is our hope that as they reconsider this issue, continue to consider this issue, the Greenway remain, like the Parks and Rec board determined, the Greenway remain open to bicyclists while we proceed with the non-motorized review. Does that make sense to the?
Yeah, but
I appreciate if you just.
But I don't think that was really the full intent of the discussion, and I think that should stand alone. So we discussed on an agenda item at a meeting already at the DMB, where safety was the primary concern that everyone could agree upon. And the other concern was, we are the board for the downtown. So we wanted to have a decision that was exclusively focused on the central business district. So I really don't feel like, especially because we had that full comprehensive discussion at a meeting already. I don't think that we need to send that point of clarity, because it doesn't give a comprehensive discussion to what that was. But our motion does, and we made a motion and we voted together. This isn't even like an agenda item. If we need to bring it back as an agenda item so that we have a new vote and those sorts of things,
Yeah,
we can do that, but we're not here to do that tonight.
sure. I'm starting to see how the board operates. You know, tonight was a new experience for me. We seem to operate often without a vote and just a gentle suggestion to Amy. We
On
did that.
certain items.
So I would contextualize this in the same way, that it could be please proceed accordingly, Amy. If you go to the meeting and you're part of that conversation, make sure we at least advocate to keep that non-motorized trail open to bicyclists. You and I disagree on it, I guess. The critical thing is how the other.
I don't think we disagree. I think we disagree on what we should do as a board.
Right.
And I don't feel like that has been an item on our agenda. So I think the discussion is valid. I think it's appreciated. I think those are all good things. I don't think action of the board makes sense at this time. Unless there's, I don't think there's enough people that here want to vote to see that come together. I'd be willing to, again, entertain that if we want to.
I mean. This is new to me, so I'm trying to fit, like, is that making a motion to, that it's okay for Amy to say that, or is that?
We had two people that were interested. I don't know, did you change, you wanted to be?
Well,
interested?
I guess I would,
I don't think,
I know I don't wanna keep talking and going
This is
round and
like-
round on it though either, so.
not even an agenda item, so if we need to bring it back. as
I
an
did ask
agenda
you to
item-
put it on the agenda and you said you would.
But the agenda was already made, cause we don't,
It's a month
we
ago.
already brought it to us, like it was
I did
already.
ask. In fairness.
In fairness, you did, and it was already brought to us as a board and we already voted on it. I think,
yeah. I mean, I think if it's not clear to the board what our motion was about, or if the council, then that would be I mean, I think you would, either whether we talk about it or not, you would make sure that our motion was interpreted correctly if they weren't doing it, right, at the council level. Probably. I don't know, you know what I'm saying, I don't know,
I don't know.
well,
I mean, again, at least two of the council members watched the meeting,
right,
if not more of them. They knew what the discussion was. And the board received the ordinance that said CBD and Park Reserve District. And that's what they did their first reading on, that they didn't, based on the comments from the two boards, decide they wanted a different ordinance.
they did not.
So they did not, so they sent it to second reading as it currently is. Now, I don't think, it's a split council. So where that's gonna land, I don't know.
so while this is valuable conversation, I think it should be had at the city council level. So. That's my thought.
Joe, are you gonna put your finger on the scale at all? Are you?
Okay, so I think it's time we can move on, Joe. I think everybody. Okay, I think that covers our reports by city. 'Cause I think that was more of our city report.
Well, I do have more staff,
Okay,
okay, just quickly. Just, I updated the downtown vacancy data. And I made some changes from the last one I did because, so anyway. Good news is we have fewer vacancies because we do have, new storefronts. Eloise expanded to, East Lake. Pachamama's on Howard. That was never really a vacancy. It's just like one business went out, another one went in. Happy's Taco Shop, Berg's on Main, so the old Bear Cub is full. Ashton Clark Properties took the corner, Picado Fashion House took 200 Bay Street, and Elio is where Arlington Jewelers was. So that all helps. Vacancy rate is 8%. What I changed in this is I used to have a standalone category called takeaway food and beverage that wasn't retail. I don't know exactly why I did that, but that includes the ice cream stores, but it also included Frustini's, American Spoon. So they're truly retail establishments. I don't know what you would call Murdoch's if they're retail, but it was that kind of gray area. Is it a restaurant? Is it retail? But I just added those, so our percent of retail went up. Just because I don't have the number of business, I think it was 7 businesses and moved them into just retail.
American
I think
Spoon and
that's fair.
Christini's are retail.
Yeah,
And if we get too small a category, I think it's because I didn't want too small of a category. So anyway, that's one change. And then I did a other category, excuse me. That had a whole lot in it and someone's like, what does that include? So that could be everything from Crooked Tree to the Perry Hotel to Petoskey Plaza. It's all the things that didn't fit into some of the other categories. So I broke that up a little bit, excuse me, and I have offices other, so that would be Dan Harris's office, the orthodontist office, Petoskey Plastics, things that aren't finance and real estate.
I can't read those, just
Okay,
because that's
sorry.
my eyes, but
So-
real estate and that up there is its own.
Yeah,
thing,
so
or is
no,
that-
finance and real estate, that's the 14%. So that because that's been growing over time, that is its own category. And then I pulled out lodging, which we really just have two properties, which is the Perry and the cottages. And then arts, culture, religious, environmental organizations. So I just try to break up that other to make a little bit more sense. So it's a little more busy of a pie, but the good news is we are at an 8% storefront vacancy rate, which I understand. It doesn't help the look of Mitchell Street, but
Cause that 8%.
a large portion of downtown is home.
That's good.
And I think, just wanted to give, I have not been playing much with Placer AI just because I have other things, but, wanted to see year over year, April 1st through May 30th, what our visitor data was. For visits, we're up 5.3% over 2025, 91,000 visitors, and these are people that have 10 minutes or more. The frequency of visit is 2.37, and the average dwell time is an hour and 86 minutes. You can see an upward trend as the season progresses, but the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend was the peak. So,
What's the frequency? 2.37, what does that mean? Like,
sorry,
the frequency, that says,
that's how many times, basically that times visitors gives you visits, so it's a visitor comes to downtown, how many times?
got it.
So. This is just,
And that could include people coming to work, is, that number probably does, but.
and I think that is all I have. And the mayor and Shane are at the, reception for the passenger pigeon.
Oh, yeah.
So
Passenger
it's
pigeon.
passenger
Answer
pigeon.
building,
Passenger.
there's a statue going in.
Yeah, the statue unveiling, I think, is Thursday. I have to double check. I think it's Thursday at 11 in front of the dancer building.
Great. Passenger pigeons. Perfect. So typically they would fill the rest of the city reports, but I think we covered all of that, so. Be that there's no further menu items for this board, I say we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
I'll have this built.